it's Becky here from Creative Haven YXE, and today we're going to do a tutorial on how to make our dragon junk journal. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough and then we'll dive right into the tutorial. So the closure that we have on this one here is just a wrap, ribbon wrap with a key on the end to add some weight. Then we've got a few embellishments on the front, some fussy cutting involved in this one. Can have a lot more decoration on it. There's plenty of room to add decoration and plenty of extra ephemera to do that. So let's do a quick go through here. So it has 2 signatures. Both signatures are sewn into the journal itself. I just love this paper. I absolutely love the colors. I'm a big fan of dragons. I think they're pretty fun. So this paper really spoke to me. This kit is available at creativehavenyxe.ca. Each kit comes with all of the paper that you need, instructions, and of course this video tutorial that you're watching. So there's lots of room in here to add pictures or journaling or more items if you would like. Plenty of space. The colors are beautiful in this paper. We have some coffee dyed paper in here as well. And then each signature is sewn directly into the book with the bindings being hidden under the spine. And some pockets. And as I mentioned, there is plenty of room in this journal to add anything else that you would like. Lots of room for further embellishing, more pockets, more tuck spots. And there we have it. This is our dragon-themed junk journal. There we go. And let's get right into the tutorial. Okay, so now we're going to take our 12 by 12 piece of chipboard and we're going to cut it down to make the cover and the back cover and the spine. So the cover measures 8 inches by 5 1/8. So it's 8 inches by 5 1/8. So we need 2 of those pieces. Then when you are left, you will have 1 3/4 strip here, which will be the spine. Okay, so next we're going to cover our front and back covers with the decorative paper that you have selected. So I selected this one for my front cover and I'm going to use this one for the back cover. So you're going to want to cut each piece down so that it is 10 by 7 3/8 and 10 by 7 3/8. All right, so once you have that done, the next stage is we're going to glue the back and front covers to our chipboard pieces. Right in the middle, like so. So we'll just glue those down. So once you have both of your chipboard pieces attached to your front and back covers, we're just going to trim the corners and wrap the paper around to the back. So I always like to, before I trim, I will go and just gently push on all the sides. Just fold it up just a little bit. Get your crease marks, and then it's a little bit easier to see where you're going to be trimming the corner off. I find when I've got my crease marks. So just like that, then you're going to trim your corner. You're going to want to stay about a scissor blade width away from the very corner, and then you'll just tuck it in. And like so. So we'll do that to all 4 corners. Okay, so once you get to the corner, you're going to want to make sure that you tuck it in so that you've got a nice crisp corner on both sides. And then when you fold it down, it'll be nice and tucked around. And that's why we left the little scissor width. And there we have it. And so because we tucked it in, we've got a nice clean corner on both edges. So we'll do that again on this side here. Let's tuck it in. If you're working with cardstock that's a bit thicker, or if your paper is not nicely folding up on you, you can just give it a little run through with your score, with your bone folder, and that'll just help the crease a little bit. Okay, so now it is time to attach our covers to the spine. To do that, we are going to use a piece of cardstock. I've chosen black cardstock. This one we've cut down to 2 1/4 and left it the length, which was 11 1/2. So 2 1/4 by 11 1/2. If you're using a 12 by 12 piece, leave it at 12 by 2 1/4. 2 1/4 by 11 1/2. Then we're going to attach our spine right into the middle, and then we're going to attach the back cover and the front cover and then wrap it. So let's get started. For this, I will always use my Sue Kwang double-sided because you get a really good stick with it. I'll also use the Ultra Bond adhesive. I like to use both, that way I know it's not going anywhere. If you put your Ultra Bond adhesive over top of your double-sided tape, it will give you an extra millisecond or so to position it. So you've got a little wiggle room there if you use the glue over top of the double-sided tape. So first we're going to adhere this down to the piece of cardstock, our spine onto our piece of cardstock. Then we're going to put another row of the Sue Kwang tape and put our covers on. So let's make sure that both of those are down really well. Perfect. Then you're going to want to position your piece of cardstock in the middle of your work surface, or whatever is easiest for you to use. And you don't want too much glue, although I think I might have got a bubble in mine. You don't want too much glue because then it'll just goop out. So just enough that everything is covered really well. There we have it. And we're going to set this down and then line this up to be right in the middle. If it is not exactly in the middle, top to bottom, that's okay, but you do want it fairly perfect left to right. So right in the center, side to side, over the width, you want it right in the middle there. That will just end straight. That will make it a lot cleaner. You can measure this if you would like to. I like to eyeball it. Again, it is a junk journal, so I'm okay if it's a little bit off. And then just make sure that that's down really well. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to attach our front and our back covers to our piece of cardstock that we have attached our spine to. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure that you have your front and back covers on the proper sides of your project so that you don't end up having it turned around. So give it a test and make sure that when you would close the book, your cover's where you want it to be. Okay, so because of that, I know that I've got these on the right sides, so I'm just going to flip them over, remembering that it will be the outside. This is the part that's going to get adhered. Okay, so same here, this side, this is the part that's going to get adhered, because we're going to put our double-sided tape on the cover and the back cover, my bad, the cover and the back cover, so that we make sure we've got a real good seal on that side there. And then we're also going to put a piece of double-sided tape on the outside here, and then just a little bit of glue to give us that wiggle room, and away we go. So remembering it's this side we're adhering and this side we're adhering. So we'll start with the back. And make sure you get it as close as you can to the edge. And it nice and tight. And then same here, we're going to do it as close as we can to the edge. And make sure that that's down really well. Perfect. And then I'm going to put my liquid adhesive onto the spine side. That way I'm not going to go over a little bit by accident. So we'll put it here. I'll put it right over the tape, just a thin little line, and then right there. Now you don't want to go right up against the spine, the chipboard piece, because you need to leave a gap of about 1.5 millimeters. You need to leave a gap the thickness of your piece of chipboard. So some people like to set their chipboard up against, right up against, and then put their next piece in. I prefer to eyeball it. I like to eyeball everything. So you're going to flip it over and line it up, top and bottom, giving yourself that little bit of space. Again, about 1 millimeter to 2. The thicker your cardstock, the bigger the space. If you don't leave a big enough space, you won't be able to open and close your journal very nicely, and it will start to crack along your bend. So make sure that you've got that down really well, and make sure that you've got your gap there of 1 to 2 millimeters, depending on the thickness of your chipboard. Perfect. Then we'll give that a good burnishing down. Same on the front. I always like to do front and back of all my pieces. That way I know it's on there really well. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to move on to our next piece, to the front. Same thing. We're going to put our adhesive. We know it's going to be this side, right? Close like that. We're going to put our adhesive on this edge, a little bit of glue, and put them together. Now, if you're not using cardstock for the spine, you can use contact paper, you can use book binding tape, you can use all kinds of things. I'm going to use cardstock for this one because this is going to be a junk journal that I'm going to use. And then the signatures are all going to be sewn into here, so it's not removable. If it was one that I was switching the signatures in and out and the cover was going to get a lot of use and a lot of wear and tear, I would probably do a different binding here on the spine. But because this is a junk journal that's going to get used, they're sewn right in, that's how we're going to do it for this one. If you have any questions about other ways to attach, please watch some of my other videos, or take a look at creativehavenyxe.ca, and we've got lots of examples on there for you. Okay, so then we're going to put our adhesive. And again, making sure not to go right up to the spine. Now make sure that you have this going the right way. Top. When this comes down, it'll be the top. Now I've got them upside down. Perfect. So lining up top and bottom, leaving that 1 to 2 millimeter space. Fantastic. And then we'll just give that a good push down. All right, next up is we're going to fold up the remaining cardstock, fold it to the back. Okay, so to do this, I'm just going to use my bone folder to give it a bit of a crease. This is my Burnishing Gold bone folder, so it does have a little bit of glue on it. That's all right. Then you're going to fold it up gently, gently, gently. Perfect. Now we're going to put double-sided here, here, and here, 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 and here. And then I also like to, on the inside of the spine, I'm going to put double-sided here and here on the spine piece and here. Okay, so now that we have our cover and spine and everything all put together, now it's time to decorate the outside of your album. The reason you want to do this, or the outside of your journal, the reason you want to do this now is because if you do end up using any ribbon to put on the sides here, which lots of times people do, or depending on the closure you want to do, you want to leave this open so that when you cover it up with paper, it'll cover up any of the hardware on the inside. So first thing, do not fold your album until the spine is dry. If you fold it when it's wet, you run the risk of it ripping. So you don't want to do it until it's dry. Once it's dry, take your bone folder and just really gently go into the crease. So that'll make it a little bit easier for it to fold up. Then slowly but surely, you can fold your album. And the front. There we've got it. And there is our junk journal album cover ready to go. And now we're going to work on decorating the outside. Once we're done decorating the outside, then we're going to move on to decorating the inside and working on our signatures. Okay, so for the cover, I have decided that I'm just going to use these pieces that I cut out from our sheet, and I'm going to add a little tiny brad right here on these ones. So let's add those, and that will be my cover decoration. I might later decide to put some sort of title, but for now, this is what I'm doing. Okay, so now that we're done decorating our cover, please feel free to add as much as you would like onto the cover. The reason that we've done the cover prior to the inside is so that when we put these brads through, when we put our piece of paper here to cover this, it will cover up the brads. I always like to stick a little piece of double-sided tape over top of all of my hardware that comes through, just to make it a little more secure. So now what we're going to do is just set our cover aside and start working on our spine and signatures. So you will take all of your papers and decide what you want and put your signatures all together. Decide what order you want them in, what other extra papers you would like to have with them, all of those fun things. So the first thing you're going to do is these pages all come on an 8.5 by 11 printed paper. We're going to cut everything down to 7.5. So each page is going to get cut down to 7.5 by 9 3/4, or 7.5 by 9 3/4. So after I have cut down all of my pages that I'm going to be using in the book, these are all of the decorative pages. The next thing I'm going to do is also cut down any of the other pages I choose to use. So I'm going to be using some coffee dyed paper because it's one of my favorites, especially for journals. So the same thing here, you're going to want to cut down all of the coffee dyed paper or any other papers that you're putting in to 7.5 by 9 3/4. Once that is all done, we will start stacking. We're going to make 2 signatures for this book. I also like to distress all of the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and distress all of the edges for all of my pages, front and back. I'll distress it all. I am using Distress Ink Vintage Photo to distress these pages. I use Vintage Photo for most of my junk journals and albums because I like the vintage look. That's what I'm going for. That color seems to match everything and be what I want. So when we come back, I will have distressed all of the edges for all of these pages. All of the papers will be cut down to the 7.5 by 9 3/4, and we'll be ready to start assembling our signatures. Okay, so now we're going to work on this spine part and where we're going to attach our signatures, and then this is just going to fit inside of our already cover. So you're going to cut a piece of cardstock. You're going to cut it to 7 3/4 by 3.5. So 7 3/4 by 3.5. Then we're going to score it so that it's a little bit easier to fit right in there. So the middle part needs to be 1 inch. That's what our spine is. And then we have just the little flaps on the outside. So you're going to score it at, let me double check, 1 1/4 and then 2 1/4. So 1 1/4 and then 2 1/4, which will leave you 1 1/4 flaps on the outside and then your middle spine at 1 inch. So from there, we're going to flip it over, and onto the back side, we're going to put our markings for where we're going to poke our holes to sew in our signatures. So I have done, depending on how thick your signatures are and how much room you like on either side of them, I have done 3/8 of an inch in from each side. So I just measured 3/8 of an inch in on both sides and drew a straight line. From there, we're going to go an inch down from the top, make our first mark on both of the lines, then right in the center, and then an inch from the bottom and make our next dots. So here's where we're going to poke our holes to put our signatures, to sew our signatures into the spine. Then this is all going to get attached to the cover. There are a couple different ways that you could do this spine if you wanted. If you wanted to see the binding on the outside of your album, you would take what you've measured. Once you poke those holes, you'll line this up on the inside and then poke them again to go straight through the spine cover as well. I do not want them to be shown on the outside of my cover, so we're going to just do them on a separate piece and then attach this onto the inside. So from here, you're going to want to get something that you can poke through. You can use an old foam book. That's usually what I use. I just happen to have this little squishy foam thing, so I'm going to use that today, and you're just going to poke your holes where you've marked them. And that's it. Pretty straightforward, a lot of measuring. So once we have all of our holes in our spine, and there we have them, I'm also going to, and I like to poke back through the top just to push those side pieces in a little bit. It helps it to lie a little bit flatter for you on the inside. You don't have to, but that's definitely an option for you. I don't like to mark on the inside because then I'll see my lines. Even if I erase them, I still end up seeing a little bit of them, or I'll see my eraser marks. So I always mark on the back, poke the holes, and then you can push this all back through to the back if you'd like. All right, so once that's done, we're going to take our signatures. So I have made 2 signatures. We've cut down all of the paper, I distressed all of the sides, then I organized them into the way how I would like them to show up in the book. So you just put them all together. It's pretty easy. From here, we're going to poke the holes to match up with the holes here. So there's a few different ways to do this. The way that I like to do this is I'm going to put my stack together, and then I'm just going to line it up with where it's going to fit. So just like this. And then I'm going to mark on the outside piece where those holes are. So it's here, and it's here. So once I have those marked on the outside, I will open this up from the center. Make sure these pages are all stacked really tightly together. You can use a clip. Often I'll just use a butterfly clip to hold these pages all together while I'm poking. Make sure that everything is nice and tight. Okay, so now that I have these all marked, I'm just going to put the little clips that I finally found on here, making sure that these are all lined up and that it's super tight here. So you want to make sure that that's tucked really well. And then just put your clips on. 2 is usually plenty. Okay, and now we're just going to poke the holes where we have marked them. And right on the crease and all the way through. Right on the crease. And we're going to do that to the second signature as well. And once we have all of our holes poked in our signatures, then we're going to sew them onto our spine piece. So now that we have all of the holes punched in both of our signatures as well as in our spine insert piece, we're going to sew the signatures onto the spine. So for that, we'll just take whichever one you would like to have in the front, the first one, and then your second one. So I'll set the second one aside. We're going to do the first one first. So what we're going to do is we're going to take thread or ribbon or twine, whatever it is you would like to use to sew it in. Dental floss also works because it's pre-waxed. I mean, it's waxed, so it works really nice. So you're going to measure 3 times the length of your signature. So we've got that. All right, then we're going to start on the back side because we want everything hidden in the back side and then sewn in so you can't see it. So we're going to take our signature piece, line it up to where it's going to be, take the spine and the signature, and line those up, and then starting in the middle on the back. So you go through and then it through. And then you're going to hold, you need enough to tie at the end. So I usually leave, I don't know about that. What does that look like? 2.5 inches. You can use a little clip to just clip it to here so it doesn't come out on you. Just like that. And we're going to keep going. So now you're going to go to the bottom and go through the bottom hole and through the bottom hole of the spine. Okay, pull that snug back into the middle. Pull that snug to the top, going through all of your signature pages and the top of your spine. All right, then from here, now is where we're going to tie it. So you're gonna go make sure that everything is nice and snug. If you are using ribbon, you're gonna wanna make sure that your ribbon is flat on the inside so that it opens and closes really nicely. You can use twine, same thing, just make sure that it's flat, there's no pulls anywhere, so that's snug. So now we're going to take our needle and go underneath the top piece there. And then tie it off. Then I like to go once more through the bottom and through the top and give it one more good tie. All right, and there you have it. Your first signature is attached nicely to your spine piece. We're going to repeat the same process with our second one. this one is not. Let's see, that needs to just, there we go. Perfect. So now everything's snug in the front and we're snug here at the back. Unclip that. We'll go around the bottom. And then I'll do that one more time, making sure that everything is tucked in there and tied really well. And just keeping those other little tails out of your way. All right, and there we have it. Trim all of our little tails. And I'm going to run a piece of double-sided tape over the seams here. That just holds everything in place a little bit. It's a little bit stronger to make sure that nothing's going to come out on us anywhere. And there we've got it. And this is going to get attached into our journal. And we are almost finished on the home stretch. So I'm going to open this up. Take my double-sided tape and just tape down the seam there and all of these tucked in edges just to make sure that everything's going to stay where I've got it, where I want it. Doesn't matter if you get all of the tails in there. It's really just to hold everything down and cover up those holes that you punch just to make sure everything is extra secure. This step isn't necessary, although I always do it. All right, once you've got that down on there, I'll just give it a good burnish with my bone folder to make sure that it's nice and stuck. And there we go. Look at that. All right, now it is time for us to glue our spine piece with our signatures attached into our cover. Okay, so let's get started. All right, now make sure you've got it going right side, which we do. I'm going to put a clip on these to hold them out of my way. And then you're going to line up everything. Doing a terrible job. There is our journal all put together. Now it's ready to be decorated. You can continue decorating on the cover. You can decorate any of the pages on the inside if you would like. The last thing we're going to do now is cover this here. So we'll choose our decorative paper that we want to put on the inside here, and away we go. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to adhere the paper to the inside here to cover that up. So I have chosen these two pages that I really liked, and I cut out the sections of each of them that I wanted. So you're going to want to cut it down to 7 3/4 by 4 3/4. And so 7 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then we're just going to attach these to the covers, inside covers of the journal. So as always, I put my double-sided tape around the outside, and then I'll fill the center with glue. There we have it. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the closure on the journal, and then we're going to decorate to our heart's content. Oh wait, so now I'm going to do the closure that I'm going to have on this particular journal. There's, again, about a million different ways that you can do closures. This is the one I've chosen for this one. So first thing I did was I marked the center, the middle here, and then I went in about 1/2 inch. So because this is 8, 4, and then in about 1/2 inch, and I just did a little dot. That's where we're going to poke our hole to put our little eyelet through. So there we go. And I'm using my Crop-A-Dile, and I'm using the smaller one. So the, let's see here. What is this one? The smaller side. So the 1/8. And that's the size of grommet that I have as well. So you're just going to line that up onto your little marking. Poke our hole. And I definitely did not have this one set up right. Right. Perfect. So once you've got that on there nice and secure, we're going to take our strip of ribbon, double it over, and thread through the folded end through the grommet that you've just inserted, or eyelet that you've just inserted. From the outside to the inside. Okay, then we're going to pull the rest through. So there you have it. If you wanted to put a little piece of glue or a little bit of glue just on the inside here to make sure that that stays flat, you sure can, but it's not necessary. And then this is the way that I've chosen to close this one off. This one gets tucked in here. Now I've decided you can put on, if you had beads or if you had anything else that you would like to add onto here. I've decided I'm going to add a key. So to add the key, I'm just going to thread it through here and making sure that this stays tight and even. And then I'll just double knot it on to the key. And I'm going to put it onto the side. All right, so there we have it. And it's just on there. I'm going to trim this up a little bit. All right. And there you go. So then that's how I've chosen to do the closure on there. Again, there's so many ways that you can, but I like this. I think it's nice and clean. And then as the book gets bigger, once I start to fill it, it will be, it can expand or it can hold this tight as well. And so there it goes. I'm really quite pleased with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to decorate the inside. I'm going to add some of the ephemera that we cut out earlier, and I've distressed all of the edges for all of our pieces. So we've got all of these pieces here and some tags and some little, looks like tape strips. So we're going to put some of those on. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and decorate my journal with what fancy things I've cut out already.